November 9th, 2021. Welcome to the Stu Peters Show. My name is Stu Peters. If any poor, unfortunate soul represents the way that our leaders have misled and lied to us, it's 13-year-old Maddie D. Garay. Maddie's mother, Stephanie, was a Biden voter last fall. She was a complete believer in these vaccines, so much so that she volunteered her daughter for a Pfizer vaccine trial. But something went horribly wrong. Shortly after her second shot in January, Maddie's health fell apart. She suffered from an erratic pulse, muscle spasms, headaches, has lost her ability to walk or even cough properly. She's been confined to a wheelchair and has had to use a feeding tube. She's been repeatedly hospitalized. The pain, we are told, is often excruciating. But instead of admitting that the vaccine is at fault, doctors have blamed Maddie's illness on conversion disorder, which is just the modern name for the old illness of hysteria. They think that Maddie's illness, the one that has her in a wheelchair and on a feeding tube, is all in her head. Maddie never suffered from anxiety until they stuck this shot in her arm, but now the doctors say that it must be anxiety that's leaving her unable to walk. Stephanie D. Garay just wants health authorities and the Biden administration to acknowledge what happened to her daughter. But they don't need Stephanie anymore. They got her vote, which is all they wanted. Now she's useless to them. To quote Courtney Bennett of the Mayo Clinic, their attitude may as well just be, please go and die. They need Maddie out of the way. Because right now, the Biden regime is racing ahead with Operation Shots in Arms. The FDA just approved emergency vaccines for children ages 5 to 11, and you better believe they're going to be sticking needles in newborns as soon as they can. They don't want a personally disabled young girl called Maddie ruining their plans, or in Pfizer's case, their profit margins. Stephanie has tried to commission a television commercial about her daughter's suffering. It was supposed to air during Saturday Night Live and then meet the press the following day. The ad was a direct personal plea to Joe Biden. Comcast initially accepted it, but then Comcast retracted that acceptance. Comcast said the ad's contents were too graphic. And at the same time, they said that Stephanie's claims about her own daughter, Maddie, were unsubstantiated, despite Stephanie submitting complete medical records. So that's the hell that Maddie is living through right now. She got an experimental shot because powerful people lied to her family and said it was definitely safe. Now she's suffering and they just want her silenced, disappeared, put away. And of course, Stephanie has no hope of suing Pfizer for what happened to her daughter. Congress made sure of that last year when it gave them blanket immunity from the side effects of this vaccine. Well, we won't silence them. Stephanie and Maddie are in their vehicle at the hospital, and they join us now. Both of you, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate this. Mm-hmm. So what do you want to tell the world? What were your hopes with the commercial? What is it that you hope this appearance will help to do?
To get the government's attention that something did go wrong during the trials with the vaccine, and to warn other parents that, I'm not trying to, everybody has their own opinion and choice. Well, for now, they can make their choice, but I feel like people are not being given informed consent. They're not, because what happened to Maddie was not put in the EUA for children. The details were not put in there. It was pretty much brushed off as a stomach ache, and it is not a stomach ache. We're in one of the children's hospitals, not the one where the trial was held, because we've moved all of her care out of there. But we're at another children's hospital doing a gastric emptying study, and it's not normal. We're here way longer than we were supposed to be. So we've been here since 8 a.m. It's 12. Still not normal.
What you're going through is absolutely unfathomable. I'm a father, so I can't imagine the pain that you're feeling. But does the pain come more from the fact that they're trying to tell you or convince you or lie to the public and say that this is all in your daughter's head?
I mean, that is very frustrating. It's painful to watch her be in pain. But the fact that they're lying and trying to hide it is like it makes my blood boil. That's the best way I can describe it. And that it's happening to other kids. Like there's other parents that I'm connected to. It's not just Maddie, and it's going to be more kids. And those are only the people that we've been able to connect with. You know, a lot of people aren't speaking up because they're afraid to. And I don't blame them.
We're watching the numbers in the vaccine adverse events reporting system just absolutely skyrocket. And so we know that Maddie is not alone. Do you feel that if the media wouldn't silence you and wouldn't suppress you, and that you would have been able to early on be out in the wide open in the public as your First Amendment is supposed to allow for, rather than being censored and silenced? Do you feel like her story, that what she's going through, may not have been in vain?
Yes. People would have known. They couldn't have ignored it if it was out there everywhere. I mean, it's being silenced by everything, by social media, by mainstream media. I mean, even if you Google her name, you can see it when it's happening, where it's like they're pushing down, because I have to Google it to make sure nothing bad's out there on her name. So that's why I do it. But you can just, I didn't even realize that anything like this could happen. I didn't. It's like, this is stuff in movies. It's not stuff that happens in real life, especially the one that I'm living in, my daughter.
So how long after the shot did Maddie start to experience these adverse reactions? And take us kind of through that. What exactly is it that she's experiencing? I know I touched on it briefly, but you're there, you're her mother, you see it every day.
So when she first so it was with her second dose, she had a typical reaction with her first dose. The second dose, she had said immediately, she's like, that hurt way more than the first one. She's like, it wasn't like that. So that was one weird thing, but we kind of brushed it off, like maybe she tensed up or something. So not worried. And then in the middle of the night, she came into our room and said, I don't feel right. There's something wrong. Can I sleep in here? And so she did. And then the next morning we said, hey, you don't have to go to school. She wanted to go. She hates missing school because then you have to make up the work. So she somehow managed to push through school. By the time she got home, she was a mess. Her fingers and toes were white and ice cold. She had excruciating pain in her lower right abdomen to the point where she was like hunched over. Her back, she couldn't even lay on her back because it was like electric shocks going up and down it. It hurt to even touch it. My husband had called me at work because he works from home. He called me and he said, Maddie's having some type of adverse reaction. I hear it in the background. And she's like, Mom, my heart feels like it's being ripped up through my neck. Like I can't get that out of my head. So she had a fever. She just not in good shape. I mean, it was bad. And so by the time I got home, the trial, so whenever you are logging adverse reactions, it's only solicited events. Like there's no free form, by the way. I don't think people realize this, to log what's happening. Like if it's outside of the things they're soliciting, which are like not very serious things, like normal throwing up. Did you have, a rash? Was it swollen? Nothing like what happened to her. So we called the trial doctor. That's what you're supposed to do. And then they told us to go into the ER. They said it would be best if you go to Cincinnati Children's, because then we can, that's where the trial was held, because then we have access to the records and we can, then we're able to compensate for the medical costs, So we did, and she didn't have appendicitis. They gave her an IV, Toradol, and anti-nausea. I think that's it. They did an x-ray to see if there was appendicitis and a renal profile, and that was it, and sent her home saying, it'll get better. And it didn't get better, and just continued to get worse. So she's went to the ER 9 times, I think it was, and then she had been admitted to the hospital 3 times for a total of 2 months. And we're still going to doctor's appointments. They didn't investigate, why are we just now having a gastric emptying study? Why did they never look at that? This is a problem, they didn't try. It was brushed off early on, like you said, as the conversion disorder or the functional neurologic disorder with anxiety. So
Is that false? I mean, clearly
Oh,
you
yes.
you don't
Yeah.
believe that.
No, no. And you know what? In the beginning, they had us convinced. And we were desperate to the point where we're like, okay, well, maybe maybe it is, even though she never had anxiety before. We're like, well, whatever what happened to her made her, and it was not anxiety, but it was like, I don't know how. And after talking to other people that have been through this, it's that they're like, it's like your body feels like it's, I don't know how to describe it, because I haven't experienced it, but they said it's different. It's like it's like an uneasy feeling, not anxiety where typical what you would think of it anxiety. First of all, she would have had it before. She didn't have it before. It was not in her charts. I have proof. Nowhere in her charts. It was put into her charts by Cincinnati Children's after, and I think it was March. She had the second vaccine January 20th. So
the commercial that you were going to do that was shot down by Comcast was a direct plea to Joe Biden.
Yes.
That wasn't allowed by Comcast, but we are going to allow it here. What is your direct plea to the president?
My plea is to stop giving this. I mean, stop giving this to kids. Stop. They don't need it. And I'm not a doctor, so I don't want to speak out of context, but it's harming kids more than it's helping them.
Well, there are plenty of studies to support that. Go ahead.
Yes.
You work.
No, I work in an elementary school, so I see this day to day. No.
In the school where you work, are they going to mandate this shot in order to have in-person learning?
I don't know. I mean, I have no clue.
Have you spoken to them? Have you advocated against that?
For me, I know what I'm not going to do. They know my situation. It's really not, it's whatever happens there. There's nothing I can do about it. I won't get the vaccine. I won't, because I can't risk not being able to take care of Maddie.
And what about for the kids, in order for them to be participating in in-person learning? If they get to the point where they're going to mandate that there, will you adamantly fight against it?
For my kids? Yes.
For the kids in your class, for the kids at that school?
For that, I feel like it's not my position. I'm an educational aide. I work with special ed. I'm not a teacher there. So I just don't feel like it's my position. I'm advocating overall for all kids, not specifically my school. Now, when it comes to my kids, will I advocate at their school? Yes, because that's my business, if that makes sense. I'm advocating for all kids, not just the ones in my school. And I know that there's different situations where maybe kids are high risk and it does make sense, but they have not done enough research to figure that out. They haven't.
Yeah, they've done virtually none at all.
They've done none. They've done nothing to look at, a 12-year-old, that's a time in your life when you're like starting to become an adult. You're not an adult yet. They gave her an adult version, the dose. That's a 12-year-old's getting an adult dose.
So now at this point in her treatment, are they starting to admit now that this is as a result of this Pfizer shot that she took, or are they still adamantly, vehemently denying that?
They're denying it. Yeah. I mean, we moved all of her care out of Cincinnati Children's. They had control of everything. That's where the trial was held. That's where the trial Dr. Frank works. The principal investigator who gets to say whether it was from the vaccine or not.
Why do you think this is? I mean, you're firsthand dealing with this. We have speculated about this. We have reported on these cover-ups and the suppression of this information. Why do you think that they're covering this up? Is it for profit? Is it for something more diabolical?
It's either got to be for profit, or I don't know anything else it could be for. It just, nothing else makes sense because there's nothing to prove that the vaccines work. People are getting COVID when they have the vaccine. People are getting hospitalized in the ICU when they have the vaccine. It happened to my brother-in-law. they're not looking at all at people that have natural immunity. They're not even looking at it. It's like, it doesn't matter if you had COVID and you might have natural immunity. We're not even going to check that. That's not even something that matters.
Well, we are going to be praying for you, for your family, for Maddie, and for all of the children in this country and around the world that are being led to this shot and not given an opportunity to make a choice after their own health or their parents. And what you're going through is just, I'm really sorry. I'm very sorry. When I was listening to you talk, it was hard not to overtly tear up. I don't know. I take this very personally because I'm a father. And I think a lot of our viewers also will feel those emotions. I've got about a minute left here, Stephanie. What are your final words?
I just do your research. Do your research. You're not getting informed consent from the doctors. You're not. You are not. Take that into consideration when you choose to do what you do for your child or for yourself.
Well, I know that Maddie is not feeling well, and I know that she can hear me. And I'll be praying for you, Maddie, and stay strong throughout this. And you're a hero for allowing this to take place and for coming forward like this. I don't know how many lives you could have saved today, but if you can save just one, we think it's worth it. Stephanie, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. God bless you.
Thank you.
Well, Pfizer and Moderna have brilliantly figured out that the Zelenko protocol is and always has been the correct approach to treat COVID-19. They're releasing results from repurposed HIV drugs now, claiming a decrease in hospitalization rates of 89% and 50% respectively. Well, this is consistent with Dr. Zelenko's observations since March of 2020 that early treatment with antiviral medications reduces hospitalization and death by 84%. Dozens of peer-reviewed papers have corroborated Dr. Z's observations with an average decrease in hospitalization of 85%. Now, Pfizer and Moderna still have not discovered the clinical benefit of patient risk stratification and use of zinc, which are essential components of the Zelenko protocol. Pfizer and Moderna have not commented on the significant side effects of the repurposed HIV drugs. Another major difference of Pfizer and Moderna drugs versus the Zelenko protocol is cost. Big pharma drugs will cost $700 a person versus $30 for the Zelenko protocol. Perhaps Pfizer and Moderna are hoping that touting their expensive and unproven drugs will mitigate the horrendous side effects of the COVID-19 vaccines. Go to zstackprotocol.com right now. Just do the common sense deal. Dr. Zelenko is a Nobel Prize nominee, Presidential Medal of Freedom nominee. He saved thousands of lives in upstate New York, and he makes a one-pill formula available for you. Don't shed on me, bro. Protect yourself from influenza. Protect your kids with gummies that are now available for pre-order. Put this stuff on auto ship and protect yourself. Go to zstackprotocol.com right now, zstackprotocol.com.